All right.
He wants to.
We allowed to take videos? Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can take any pictures you like.
Excellent. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's on. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I got a bit of a cold here.
No problem.
Driving me crazy. So are you airplane enthusiasts, or just looking for something to do, or just?
Yeah, I'm an enthusiast. I love history in general. Yeah.
And aircraft. And if I said F-86, what would you say?
Yeah, it's a fighter jet. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a start.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not. It's a little filter I do.
Yeah.
Who we got here? That's an F-86 right there.
F-86. Okay. Yeah.
And you notice it's well, you come to a museum to learn things, right, and to be educated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How do we know that that's a Canadian plane?
Because it has the Canadian logo on the maple leaf.
The maple leaf on there. Okay. Well, the RCAF, Royal Canadian Air Force, it came from the Royal Air Force, which was the British Air Force. So the uniforms, the ranks, the culture, the equipment initially, all British. And that blue circle with the maple leaf in it is called a roundel. And our roundel was identical to the British one, which is just a red circle, like a target.
Yeah.
Well, during World War II, we decided to put a maple leaf in there so people would know it's Canadian, it's not British.
Yeah.
Well, the Australians hear about this.
Yeah.
And their story is exactly the same as ours.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the Aussies.
British Commonwealth,
Yeah.
Royal Australian Air Force, their roundel was identical to the RAF roundel, a red circle in the middle. So, what they put in there is to make sure you knew that it was Australian.
It was a kangaroo. And the New Zealand had a kiwi bird.
Who's giving this tour? You or me? Hey?
Studies museum science.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So he didn't know what an F-86 was, but he knows.
I know my symbols. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's very good. Okay, so I can sometimes get going in deeper than I should, and other times not so much. You let me.
Yeah.
I want to warn you, if you keep listening,
Yeah.
I will keep talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so piston engines, they've been around since 1880, more or less. By 1905, there's actual useful cars. World War I, there's airplanes and tanks and things. No jet engines. So we got jet engines today. When do you think the very, very ever first jet plane took off? And it was just a test plane.
I'll have to think about
Just
that.
make a guess. It's okay to be wrong.
Yeah. It was like probably 1949.
941.
That's a much better guess.
Okay.
1939. Which just happened to be, of course, when World War II started.
Yeah.
And that was in Germany just before they attacked Poland.
That's the first ever jet plane, eh?
First
Right,
ever
yeah,
fighter.
come back again.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and then you can see it's just something to get up in the air.
Yeah.
They figured out the theory long before this, but it took them years to get one that didn't burn up or didn't require an electric motor to keep going. The theory is definitely valid because it's the way to go now. That's 1939. In 1942, the Germans have this plane in the air, and I think you can see it has some capabilities. But it was until 1944 before it was ready for action, and then took a small part in the war. The British are a bit behind. They got their first test plane up, which was more sophisticated than this, 1941, and they had a similar plane to this in 1942, which took an even smaller part in the war. Now, I haven't mentioned United States of America, and you'd expect them to lead the way, right?
Yeah,
You know,
that's
they got the brains, the money, all this kind of stuff. So, but they're way behind, and why would that be?
Because they were staying neutral at the time.
Yes, that's the result of the main reason, which is, was it the military or the commercial transport people that drove the development of the jet engine?
Yeah, I think it was first like commercial flights that were taking interest in it. Yeah.
No, that was much later.
Much later.
The military is very interested in it.
Yeah. Okay.
The civilians are not interested in it because it's really expensive and unreliable.
Yeah.
So they can't make it's got to be economic or they're not going to do it. And it was not economic. But the military, performance is more important than economics. Economics are important and reliability is important. But number one is performance. I meet you on the battlefield and my plane goes 100 miles an hour faster than yours. Do I care that it's costing my government all that money? Do I care if it's not as reliable as your plane? But in the commercial sense, no. So the Americans are isolated. Who can attack them? Nobody can attack them. They got small friendly countries nearby, and it's a long way to Germany or Japan or China or whoever might attack them. So they're not going to spend all that money. They did fool around in it, but they were behind. Anyway, now they did get attacked. The Japanese cheated. They put the planes on the boats. And they went at it really hard, starting in 1943. In only 6 months, this plane took off. It's called a P-80 Shooting Star. There's another picture. And this just has one engine because it's got a little more powerful engine than was available for the earlier thing, and it's a British engine. So it first flew in 1944, went over to Germany, went over to Italy in 1945, but the war ended. So it did not see action. What do you think these things are?
Like the missiles?
Missiles?
Missiles. Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're missiles, are they?
Yeah, that's what children of all ages say. They're gas tanks,
Gas tanks. Yeah.
and they're called drop tanks
Drop tanks?
because they can be dropped.
All right.
So like missiles. It
And
can be
what-
dropped.
Like bombs.
Like
Yeah.
bombs.
One way you wouldn't drop them to bomb somebody. You drop them for a good reason, and what might that good reason be? It's almost like school, right?
Isn't it like on the space shuttle how they have that like big orange dispense fuel tank and how that would burn up in the
Well,
atmosphere, or
yeah.
more like rocket boosters?
So when
Yeah.
when would you drop these?
I guess once you're in the air.
No, I mean when?
Well, why would
what's
you
the
drop 'em?
reason you will
There's lots of trips you wouldn't
Yeah,
drop them, but
what's
when
the
would you
re-
drop them?
That's the reason.
Okay,
It's empty?
we'll ask you another question.
Well, because that's why I was getting the assumption because they're all giving you the boost in the air and you
No,
know.
they don't give you a boost. They just wait and drag. Okay, I'll give you another question then.
Yeah.
If you're going to go on a race, do you want to wear a big heavy backpack?
No.
It's
If
really
you are going to
plane
meet the
heavy.
enemy, do you want to carry these with you?
Ah, fair. Yeah.
It's gonna make
Yeah.
you slower.
So if you never see the enemy, it's got 7 gas tanks. There's 2 in each wing plus 1 in the center. You burn the fuel in these first, and they keep the center tank full, which feeds the engine. When that's empty, then you start feeding the other tanks. If you never see the enemy, you don't drop them. Fill them up.
Oh,
But now you see the enemy on a flight, you head towards the enemy, then you drop them. You don't want that backpack on. Does that make sense? And when you land, will the boss be all pissed off that you dropped 100 gallons of gas?
No.
It
It's
was
free
total
gas.
waste? No, performance is everything. You all with me there? Okay, so that's the start of jet aviation. These are called Generation 1. Okay? And now the Americans get another war. Oh, sorry, did not see action in the war, but after the war, this is their number 1 fighter. They still have Mustangs and things, propeller planes, but this is their number 1. And then the Americans get in another war, 1950.
who's
Sorry.
What war? 1950. The Americans get in.
The Cold War. Or-
Yeah,
the
there's
Korean
a
War.
hot war, Korean War, yes, and Canada's there too, although not as big as the Americans. So this plane here goes up against this Russian-designed and built Chinese plane or North Korean plane, and you look at it, you can see it's much more modern than this.
Yeah.
It's called a MiG-15, and the big difference is it has a 1946 engine, whereas this has a 1943 engine. Big difference. The other thing is, look at these wings. They're straight.
them?
And these wings,
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
okay? Now, up until this plane, every plane had straight wings. Why? They're better. Until you go near the speed of sound. And then a swept wing is better. So you put up with the problems of a swept wing. So for instance, are you guys from London?
No, Richmond Hill.
Richmond Hill, Ontario.
Or the Toronto area? Just a minute. We're so honored to have you here. So if you fly from the center of the universe to here, you go in this plane here. Straight wing or swept wing?
Isn't it straight?
It's a straight wing.
Yeah.
Does it go near the speed of sound?
No.
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 So you want to use a straight wing because they're better. But if you fly to Vancouver from the center of the universe in a Boeing or an Airbus, a swept wing, and you put up with the problems of a swept wing. Okay? Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And a propeller plane just cannot go near the speed of sound because when you're going that fast and the air is rushing at you, the propeller can't get a bite. Just can't. You can't turn it fast enough. But a jet doesn't have that same problem, okay? So this guy is toast. This is generation 1. This is generation 2. This guy is toast, but then the Americans bring in their plane here, the F-86 Saberjet. And when this started design, I'm talking here the back of an envelope, rough calculations, not serious design, it had a straight wing because they didn't know any better. But by the time they got to the actual real design and actually building one, they understood that a jet can make you go fast enough that a swept wing is better. And I know it had troubles with the MiG, but the Americans improved their tactics and training, and it took care of the MiG big time. And okay, so that's generation 1, generation 2, start of the jet age. What about Canada? That's what we're interested in. So after the war, during the war we flew Typhoons, Mustangs, Spitfires, Hurricanes, you name it. But after the war, just Mustangs. Propeller plane, straight wing. Excellent plane, World War II. But after World War II, it's obvious that jet fighters are the way to go. So we buy some Generation 1 jets from the British called the Vampire, de Havilland Vampire. A simple plane to fly. We have one out in the hangar, which we can get to in about 2.5 hours, okay? Anyway, but the Vampire is Generation 1, and when we get them, we know that Generation 2 is the way to go. So we got involved in NATO. You know, the protection, the Cold War, which you mentioned, not there to drop bombs on communists or to fight communists, but there to deter the communists from starting something up. So Canada was big in NATO. We had 4 air bases, 4 army bases, and the F-86 Saberjet is what we had in Europe. And there it is there, and we look at it, it's a beautiful plane. And it's optimized. Planes had different rules. This one can shoot down bombers. But it's got extra capabilities that aren't required to shoot down a bomber. It's very fast, it's very maneuverable. It's for fighting the fighters. Okay? Very fast, very maneuverable, and very good. And we built a bunch in Canada, and the last bunch we built were better than American ones because we put a bigger engine in it. Well, it's very good in Europe for fighting fighters, but it's missing certain technology that allows it to find and go after bad guys at night or in limited visibility. Any idea what that technology might be? It can't find the bad guys if it's at night or in cloud.
Stealth technology, right?
No, you can't find them. We're not worried about them finding us. We want to find them.
Like an interceptor?
Well, the intercept, we're getting to that. This is a dogfighter, but if it wants to find the bad guy and it's at night or in cloud, it can't do it because it's missing certain technology. Any idea what that technology might be? Starts letter R.
Radar.
Radar, yeah. It doesn't have a radar on it. So it's what they call a day fighter, okay? It's very, very good, but it's missing that capability. Why doesn't it have a radar? Well, in those days, radars were big and bulky and used a lot of electricity, and that electricity has to come out of the engine. and it needed a second person to interpret it and operate it. Much more complicated than today. Well, if you graft a second person and a radar and all that stuff on that, what happens to its ability as a fighter?
Slower.
Going down, right? Okay.
Heavier.
So, King of the Skies in Europe for a few years. Excuse me. So that's Europe. We had the world's best fighter jet for a few years in the mid-50s. Now, Canada, United States and Canada as well have always been safe from air attack because we're too far away from potential enemies. But now, it's 1950, and the country who was our friend in World War II, we did not like them at all, but they were our friend. That would be the Soviet Union. And they were our friend because the enemy of my enemy is,
Germany.
no, the enemy of my enemy is
Your enemy?
my friend,
My friend. Oh.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but now that we don't have the same enemy, they're no longer our friends.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, and we're worried about, all that Cold War stuff, eh? I'm not gonna go into a lot of detail there, but anyway, the Soviet Union here has developed bombers that are capable of attacking the United States and nuclear weapons. So, could you just put your finger anywhere in the Soviet Union? Doesn't matter where.
Soviet Union.
Yeah, put your finger there.
Here.
That's good. And now, draw a straight line from that point to the middle of the United States, the shortest way.
The shortest way.
Yeah,
Oh, it's gonna go Canada. Right?
right over Canada.
It's gonna
Okay?
go Canada.
Now, they would never attack us, right? Because we're so nice. Don't kid yourself. We're anti-communist. We're, all that stuff, eh? So, if the first the Americans know about this is when they're over Winnipeg or North Bay or Quebec City, they're not going to be happy, are they? No. So we have to get involved, whether we like it or not. Truly, but we do like it because we're on the same side. Let's forget about what's going on now, but we're on the same side. So the Americans built, paid for, and staffed, might have been some Canadian contractors, but they put a whole string of radar sites all the way across here. And it's called the Distant Early Warning Line. It could not control fighters to fight the bad guys if they ever came. The DEW line, yeah. And it was a totally American run at the start. Then we started to take over more of it. The point being that up here, there's no infrastructure to support fighters. The runways are too short and they're made of gravel and that kind of stuff. So this is just a warning line. But then the Americans and us together build a whole bunch of radar sites all the way across southern Canada. So there's one near Sudbury, there's 2 or 3 in Saskatchewan, Vancouver Island, and so on and so on. And these ones are all linked together by communications. And should they get the warning, and now the bad guys arrive, and when they see them on the radars down here, they'll tell the fighters go up and deal with them. Does that all make sense? Okay, so.
But technically, we're not involved in the war, right? Or we are.
Sorry?
Canada is technically involved in the war.
Well, which word?
The Cold War.
The Cold War.
Oh, we were big in the Cold War.
Big in the Cold War, yeah,
We
for sure.
made NATO. That's Cold War stuff.
And yeah, because there's actually an interesting story where I remember being at the Diefen bunker, and there was
Yeah.
that hooded KGB agent, and that's the people said that really kick-started the Cold War. Yeah.
Yeah, Guzenko.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he wasn't exactly an agent. He was a
Consulate.
a cipher coder.
Yeah.
That comes in all coded up.
Yeah.
He was the guy who decoded it, and he knew what was going on, but he wasn't out being a spy or anything like that. But he knew there were spies out here, and that was a start. Yes. So we're part and parcel, and the whole idea of NATO is, you fight me, you fight my gang.
Yeah.
Like the commies could pick off Italy or West Germany or Denmark or Norway, but not if the Americans and Canadians and British and French are there.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea. Like if Ukraine had been part of NATO,
Yeah.
do you think Putin would have attacked?
No. Yeah.
So let's not go too far in that. So anyway, that's Cold War. Europe, it's NATO. Here, it's Defense of North America, not part of NATO, but we are joined like this with the Americans. And I can go on right there, but I won't at the moment. Now, that wonderful plane, the Saberjet,
This one?
it's very fast, it's very maneuverable, but it does not have long range, which is okay in Europe, and does not have radar. How useful is that going to be in the defense of North America? Are these
Not
bombers going
much.
to come in the daytime?
No.
Are there going to be any fighters accompanying them that the Sabre can deal with? No, because the fighters can't get this far. The bombers can. So that's not the plane you want for defense of Canada and the United States. What you need is a long-range jet with radar. And you said the word for that, which is interceptor. An interceptor can go up against a dogfighter, but it's going to lose unless it's at night. And then the interceptor will win because he's got the radar. Okay? Now, Canada was the first country to develop such a plane.
Yeah.
And there it is there.
Oh yeah.
And it's called the CF-100 Canuck. And you know, it's got a straight wing and a big fat wing.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be able to go as fast as Sabre. It doesn't need to go as fast as Sabre because it's only going to deal with bombers, not fighters. And why is it a big fat straight wing? Well, this puppy is heavy with all that fuel, the radar, the second guy. So, and it's got the 2 engines. And I think I can safely say when it first flew, it was probably the best in the world. But then, of course, other things got better. So we had that in Canada and this in Europe when we had a serious military. Don't get me going on the way we are today. Okay? Now, that takes us till 1960 or so. But now this plane here is getting obsolete, and this is getting obsolete because other countries have developed supersonic interceptors and supersonic fighters. You don't want to take a knife to a gunfight, do you? So, for defense of North America, the government calls on Avro, who developed that, and other planes, give us a supersonic long-range interceptor, and they did so. And it's our most famous plane. It is the Avro.
Arrow.
Did you know that?
No.
This guy's pretty smart. And here it is here.
Yeah. There she is in all her glory.
It's a beautiful, beautiful plane.
Oh, it's white?
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
white?
Well, it might not have stayed white.
Yeah.
Just follow along for a sec here. It was a great Canadian technological achievement. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt it could go high and fast. Would it have ever been any good? We don't know because
Yeah.
we never did use it. We developed it for 5 or 6 years. It flew. We had 5 of them flying. Avro developed the world's most powerful engine for it. But the first 5 planes that were flying, the big engine wasn't quite ready for it yet, so we're using borrowed American engines. So I had 5 flying around, and I presume doing quite well. And then one day there's a phone call at Avro, shut her down, boys, send everybody home. The program is done. Now, why did they shut it down? Well, people are still arguing today about it. There's people I call arrowheads who say it was those terrible Americans made us do it. Myself, I don't follow that because it's a long time ago and nothing has come out. Like the minutes of a meeting or somebody's memoirs, nothing is coming and saying there's. But the Americans didn't buy it, which might have been nice. It brought the cost down. Anyway, bottom line is they canceled it. I think the main reason was money. It was going way out of control. This idea maybe we could use land-based missiles, which they did buy. I'm not going to go there right now. So you can argue about was it the right decision, and there's good points on both sides. The big downside of killing it was we had a brain drain. Like all these brilliant people who designed it, no jobs in Canada now. So they went to the States and England and various places, Boeing, Lockheed, and key people in NASA because NASA needs brilliant engineers. Where are you going to get them? Well, all of a sudden there's this 100 brilliant people. So key people in the moon program were actually Canadian.
Yeah.
So that's the sad story of the Avro Arrow. What's even sadder though is having canceled it for the quote unquote reasons of security, which I don't believe for a minute, they destroyed every vestige of it. Chopped them up into small pieces, sold them for
Well,
5
they
cents a
didn't
pound.
preserve it at least.
Yeah.
No, they didn't. No.
Why?
Nothing went to a museum. Security, my dear. Yeah, don't get me going.
I think I saw remains of a nose of an Avro Arrow at the
Yeah,
Canadian Aviation
yeah,
Space in Ottawa.
Somehow that escaped
This-
it, okay?
Just
Yeah.
bits and
And
Yeah.
bits and pieces have escaped it,
Yeah.
which guys would smuggle out. Like they all went home, then they were allowed in under escort to get their stuff and whatever, and things did make their way out, which would be hidden because of serious offense. Some of this stuff is starting to show up now, and these old buggers are dying, and there's no worry about whatever. So there's a story, okay, and it's done. Well, we still need, or at least they decided we needed, a supersonic, long-range, radar-equipped interceptor.
Yeah.
So for the defense of North America, we bought this plane here.
Oh yeah.
And that plane is the,
what's this plane now?
That beats me.
well, the Americans call it the F-101 Voodoo. We call it the CF-101 Voodoo. And this just has to be a picture of the world's last ever one to fly, which is the one that's outside. And the clue is you can see the 101 there.
Yeah.
And this is the serial number there. Eh? This is the last one to fly. A couple of things here. We bought them used from the Americans. And I might think used, come on. But you probably had a used car in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
You're not going to buy a used car if it won't do the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not going to buy a used car if it's almost as expensive as a new
The
one.
new one. Yeah.
You buy a new one, right? Well, this one, both cases. It was really cheap and it could still do the job.
Yeah.
And it was a good deal for the Americans too. And why did they have extra of these? Because they had developed its successor called the F-4 Phantom, and they were starting to construct those and put them in their squadrons. So their Voodoos now, they can put a few in museums and the rest they chop up for scrap. Well, they sold them to us. They got a bargain, we got a bargain.
But who made this plane?
Well, it's called McDonnell. You probably never heard of it. It was an American company. And they were slightly used when we got them. Notice you have two guys.
Yeah.
We're talking 1950s technology. Oh, what's happening here? What's all that
It's like a
fire doing?
booster. It seems like it has a booster. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
It is
that's
for
the
boost.
supersonic engine. You were saying?
Well, it's a supersonic engine producing it, but this is not supersonic. This is just taking off. It's only going 200 miles an hour.
Oh yeah. So I guess there's some artistic license in the painting, eh?
No, none.
Yeah.
You might, in the artistic license, in that daytime, you might not see that, but at night you can sure see it.
Yeah.
What's going on there? You don't see that in a Boeing, or if you do, time to get out.
Yeah.
It's called afterburner.
Afterburner. Okay.
This is a very, very heavy plane.
Okay.
2 people, all the gas, everything. It's got a very small wing. It's a swept wing. It's a skinny wing.
Skinny.
So this puppy has to go really fast to get enough lift to overcome the weight and take off. Make sense? There's a lot of air goes through the engine that's not burned up for cooling and things. Well, they found out the big fire that comes out the back, if you inject raw fuel into that, boom, it's just an accelerator like crazy.
Accelerator. It's like a booster.
Performance is everything in the military. So it, if you didn't have that, you'd need a 3-mile runway. As it is, a 2-mile runway is enough. And as soon as you get up and you put the wheels up and you put the flap up, then you turn it off, or you'll run out of gas real quick. And you wouldn't use it again except, go now. You got to get the guy. He's getting away on us. So that we got that in 1963 to replace the Canuck. And then over in Europe, the F-86 Sabre is now obsolete. It's not supersonic. So we replaced it with that plane there.
The one with the tiger stripes?
Yes, that's called the, we call it the CF-104 Starfighter. And it is not a dogfighter like the Sabre. It's a low-level bomber that they flew it at 400, 500 miles an hour, 200 feet off the ground, with targets, I presume, in Czechoslovakia or Poland or East Germany. And if I knew what their targets were, I wouldn't be able to tell you, I'm sure. And no one's ever told me. And it's what I wanted to fly when I was a young man, when I graduated from flying school in the Air Force. But I didn't get that. That's a beauty plane, it really goes.
But that's really the color of it? Like,
No, well, many squadrons of many nations have a tiger as their mascot. Okay? And so every year or two, they have what they call a tiger meet. And squadrons would paint up a plane, it could be an American plane or a West German one or a Spanish one, paint them up like a tiger, and then go to a central meeting place so they can learn from each other. Well, they did that, but what are they mostly doing? Drinking and telling stories, right? Tiger meat.
Yeah,
So so they would wear that for a few months, and then they would paint it like the rest of them. Okay, you got enough of that?
Yep.
Okay, well now we can actually see some airplanes, baby. There's your 105 Arrow. Look how big it is, eh?
Yeah.
So, and we'll never know if it was any good or not, okay? Now I can go
too
on with
bad
that.
it was never used.
I know.
But it's good that it's never used. It means there's no war.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is neat.
It's just, if it's not raining, that's just Oh, it's not bad.
It's just windy.
Yeah. Yeah, very nice collection.
Oh, you want it to be bigger.
Yeah.
Brings up a point. What stops us from being bigger? It's called money.
Money, yeah.
And you notice it was free. It was free to get in.
Yeah.
Getting
That's
out,
why you're like.
getting out is a lot harder. As long as you understand that. So that's the world's last voodoo ever to fly.
Oh, yeah.
It's like actual plane, not replica or.
That's the actual plane. Now,
Yeah.
it's never going to fly again. It's rotten right through the core, okay? Yeah, you can go as close as you like or not.
Yeah.
It's not that exciting. It's big. We want, once again, it's money that, see, we've refinished the tail,
Oh, yeah.
but we've got a long way to go, and it's money and time that is holding us back. And we would love to have this in a hangar so it doesn't fall apart over the years. But once again,
Difficult to maintain.
yeah, and we don't get any government money. We can get a grant for a specific project, but for acquisition, maintenance, repairs, heat and light, nothing. There, that's International Test Pilot School. If you Google it, it's a very interesting organization. Now, looking at this plane here,
Yeah.
The first one, the generation.
and then
one.
this plane here, is it the same plane?
It looks like.
Yeah, it does look a lot like it is.
But
the
it's
same-
just one. Is it one person only, right? This
Yeah,
one is
most
two?
people don't notice that. What they do notice is these gas tanks have moved out to the end. And this one here has two people in it. Okay? So the story there is after the war, it's the #1 fighter. And the first guys flying it were all experienced propeller fighter pilots. And there's only one seat, and there's no simulators. So they could talk to their friends, read the book, practice in the hangar, and they're going to do okay if they take off on their own. They'll have enough experience to learn and to fly safely.
True.
But now you start getting young men coming out of Texas, and this is what they learned on. And
Oh, yeah.
they're 20 years old. And that's the fastest thing they've ever flown. And now you have something like this with one seat, you've got a problem here, eh? So the Americans said, well, we need a jet trainer. We can design a new one, but that's going to take time and money. Why don't we just modify the present jet we have, which is obsolescent, not obsolete, but obsolescent. So I don't know for sure, but I would say except for the extra seat and the way they move the gas tanks, I would say it's 90% identical to the real one. The fuel system, the hydraulic system, the electrical system, the procedures, the structure of this and that. Like the nose cone, there's no need to change that. So and all of that, everything forward of the windshield there, I'm thinking it's identical to the fighter. And you see that oval patch there? Well, that would be a hole on the fighter with the gun stuck out.
Oh, so it was with a gun.
And so on and so on. So it's identical. So that is a piece of history. And when we got our Sabre jets, we needed a jet trainer. So we picked the T-33. And just like our Sabre jets, when we built them, we put a bigger engine in them than the Americans. So they're better than American ones.
Nice.
And it was our advanced trainer. So in the military, you do primary training, which is on an easy small plane, get you started. But mostly it's there to weed out people who aren't progressing quickly enough. Then you do your basic training, which is the bulk of your training. And when you finish that, you're a real pilot, but you don't have your wings. And then you do advanced training, which could be a multi-engine for transport, could be a helicopter. If you want to fly the 104, you fly that, which is what I did after my basic training.
That's nice. Oh, you're able to fly this one?
Oh, I've got more than 2,000 hours in one like that.
Oh, that's nice.
So back in the 60s, I flew it as a student. I did not enjoy that because it's kind of hard to fly because it's developed from a fighter, not as a trainer. But I got through because I wanted to go on the 104.
You have to fly this before you can fly.
Yeah, to get your wings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for whatever reasons, they sent me back to Moose Jaw, which is where I did my training, to instruct on the Tudor jet, which I'll show you later. Yeah, you know the snowbirds?
Oh yeah, I've seen them a lot.
Well, that's the Tudor jet.
Oh, the one we saw in Barry's air
Yeah,
show.
the air show. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They're tutor like a teacher, and that's a Canadian plane. It's a wonderful plane. We used it as our basic trainer for 40 years, I guess, 30 years, something like that. So I did my basic training on the Tudor jet, one of the very first courses on the Tudor jet, and then I went back as a tutor instructor. I was so pissed off. But I went back to Moose Jaw instead of Germany. Have you ever been in Moose Jaw?
No, I haven't.
Never.
Call yourself Canadian?
No.
I still need to see more of the provinces. Yes.
He hasn't even been in Vancouver.
I've been to
You
Vancouver.
have been?
Yeah.
No, the other province. What other province you have?
Well, yeah, this year we saw Quebec, and that's the one I haven't saw yet. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, our country's too big.
Yeah.
Now that's an advantage though of being in the Air Force because I got to go live
All
in
over,
most and work in every province and territory, all for free, and I was paid while I did it, and I loved it. I'd be lying if I said I loved every minute of it. But anyway, that is a piece of history. It first flew, the fighter part, first flew just 5 years after that first rudimentary jet. This plane, when the Americans came up with the T-33, it's called, that was 1948, when the first American T-33s flew. We built them in Canada starting in 1953. Well, that's only 14, 15 years after the very, very first jet flight. So it's right from the start of the jet age. It's generation 1. Oh, which reminds me, the Sabre jet and the 104 and the Sabre jet and the MiG, that's generation 2. The 104 and the Voodoo, supersonic, faster than the speed of sound, that's generation 3. Okay, so this is your generation 1. And the red one there, it's the same kind. That's our only flying airplane.
Oh yeah.
And you can have a ride in it if you want.
Oh, cool.
You can rent it. And
Well, but it only take one at a time. So we need a
Oh.
trained pilot,
Yeah.
of course, and it was a passenger. and it's only $3,500. So I'm sure you'll be doing that, right?
Be fun to do someday.
Well, I used to fly it for free.
Oh yeah.
In fact, they paid me.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's when we got these T-33s, they were gray, which was the standard color, but we painted them like the red light, which was like one that was actually painted in the 60s, when we went to air shows and things. And this is one that was in a landing accident, nobody hurt, and it's now your opportunity to sit in there and
Wait,
make.
you want to sit?
Yeah.
And you do too, right?
No.
What do you mean? Girls are allowed.
It's okay. He's into planes, so.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
when you're climbing in here, watch your head, put your hands wherever you want, step on the seat. Don't try to step all the way in,
Go.
and don't fall. Okay. Just take your time. Put your hands wherever you
Careful.
want, and then step on the seat.
Yes.
Oh, you are next. Oh, come on.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so you grab the stick in the right hand. The throttle is that red thing beside your knee. Yeah, that's the throttle. Oh, now you're going fast. Look out, you communist. He's on the roll.
You're my eyes, Goose.
Hey.
Okay, now, if you want to play the role,
Oh yeah.
it's not a real helmet. Okay, you got to grab the earphones and pull them apart.
Pull the
Yeah,
the
you
ear
got it,
one.
yeah. And it was falling apart, so that's why it's hard. I covered it in plastic. Okay, so we need a big grin and thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Big grin.
Smile.
Yeah, there we are. Tom Cruise, look out.
Oh. You're Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Okay, helmet off. No.
Remove the helmet. You don't wanna go?
He can't hear us because it,
Oh, you cannot hear. You need to remove it now.
well, he doesn't need to.
What's up? Oh, it's really like soundproof.
Yeah, very soundproof. And the whole idea is these are noisy, way noisier than an airliner. And you got to hear the intercom and the radio and stuff, and you have to defend your ears. You go.
Flight simulators are off.
Thank you. So, yeah, that's important ear defense. So, do you have any questions there, Tom?
No, not a whole lot, but yeah, this is pretty neat.
Yeah, when I flew this one in the 60s, it had an instrument panel left over from World War II. It was a mess and hard to interpret. This is a more modern one. And the red one in any modern plane doesn't have instruments like that, eh? They have computer monitors, what they call a glass cockpit.
That's so nice.
Well, yeah, I guess one question. Yeah, how long were these planes in service for?
Okay, well, 50 years almost exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, there's quite a few still flying, but just by rich people and by museums, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, want to take it away.
Boy, how big is that video file going to be?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna post this on YouTube.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
you'll get some
he-
good publicity.
Yeah, are you an influencer?
No,
Yeah.
he's just trying to build his channel, but
Build my channel.
he goes to museums and all.
Okay.
He likes museums and all. What's your channel?
Tom Friel.
TOM.
Yeah, TOMFRIEL.
Nice, I'll subscribe to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll take that.
Okay.
Nice to meet you too.
This it?
Yeah, right there.
This one?
Yep.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so send me send an email to the front desk at with that link.
Yeah, the flags.
Okay? Okay, so we're hanging in.
Yep.
Just have a look at this.
Oh yeah.
Okay, this is called ejection.
Ejection. Yeah.
This is just a test here with a special canopy.
Yeah.
Now, that's a rocket ejection. When I flew the Tuna-Jet and the T-33 in the 60s, we did not have the rocket seat. We had the bang seat, just like dynamite or something. So if I decide I want to get out, bang! And it goes to the ceiling. And that worked, but often guys would have a bad back afterwards. The rocket seat gets you higher, which is good, and it's a much lower force. And if you do eject, it's important that you wear a parachute. Now, this is exactly the kind of parachute I wear every day when I flew these planes. You put it on like a backpack, and everybody had their own individual, there are different sizes, and there's adjustments they could make with the straps. So everyone had their personal sized one. Now, it's way too small for you, it might fit you.
Let me try.
Okay, so you put it on like a backpack. And you notice it's heavy.
Oh yeah, it's heavy.
When you sit down, it sits on a...
Oh, it sits on the...
Now I'm just gonna pull it up a bit here. Can you put your hands behind you and just hold it where it is?
Here?
Yeah, just hold it, okay? So, if the parachute opens, you're gonna fall out, right? No, you don't want that. So, that goes in like that.
Oh, it locks you.
Okay, and then we've got one here that you can do, and I'll hold the parachute, okay? Now get the parachute, put that next one in.
Oh, I'm ready to fly.
Okay, now when the parachute opens, you're still gonna fall out. Well, we don't want that. So you just put your feet apart.
See?
Yeah, you're doing great. No, let me do it, please. Here we are. Okay, so this goes down in like this. You face the camera, okay? Now, could you bend forward at the waist, please? Can you bend forward and it gets, okay, then you can do the other one.
Oh, it's not.
No, wrong way. No, wrong. Outside. And I'm gonna be careful here. Yeah.
And then,
Yeah,
like
it
that.
goes in there. Bend forward, it's easier.
I can't see.
I could do this in the dark, in the rain, or anything. Guys.
I can't.
I can do it if you want, if you have trouble.
I can't see.
Okay, and now you are in there. There's no way you're falling out. Now, can you just bend forward like this? See how it gets loose when you bend forward? Okay, so when you're in there sitting in the seat, it's going to get loose.
Oh, it's
So you would pull these things here. You'd go, and you make it tight. Now, why do you make it so tight? Because it's not that comfy. Why do you make it so tight?
So you're strapped in and not
You can't
falling
fall
out.
of this.
Yeah.
Even this loose, you can't fall out of it.
Yeah.
You're in there. By the way, we'll let you out tomorrow.
I'll bring this home.
Well, the reason it makes it so tight is this part here. If you do eject, and you're
Oh,
falling
because
down,
you go up?
well, you're falling down through space. Now the parachute opens. Now this part here is supposed to be here, but if it's here, and now the parachute opens. Okay? So that's why you make it so tight. I can go on and on, but it's getting close to closing time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a minute, it's important you can get out of this quickly. If there's a strong wind when you land, the wind can catch the parachute, drag it on the ground, underwater. So you got to get out of this fast. If there's no wind, no problem. So before you land, you turn this to release. But even though it's release, you can see
Oh, yeah, you're
that
still
you're still
stuck.
in there, okay? So, but the moment your feet touch the ground and the wind catches the parachute, it's going to send you away. You go, and you're out.
Okay. But you do it yourself like that?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's the parachute. I want this every day. Maybe, I don't know exactly, I don't have a digital logbook, but probably,
I wore at least almost like that when I did paragliding, but Some guy's the one wearing the parachute at the back. I was just in front. It's almost, I'm also strapped like that.
Yeah, it's the same idea. It's a good way to do things. So, now let's see. Let me just look at some models here, just quickly, because
It's almost 4.
So, I'm not sure what you're looking at, but over on the right here, that's your Comet, the world's first jet airliner.
Oh yeah.
And then there's your Arrow, then your 104, 2 different Voodoos. In the back is an F5, which I don't want to talk about. There's your CF-100, and then behind that is our present fighter, the Hornet, which is generation 3, let me see, generation 4.
Yeah.
And Canada has just signed the contract for our generation 5 fighter, the F-35. And there's your Tudor jet, painted up like a snowbird, and your T-33, and your Sabre jet. The Golden Hawks, which were the big guys when I was a teenager. Various planes here. I won't bore you with them all. There's the famous Hercules. Any idea what this plane does, or the name of it?
The Hercules?
That's the Hercules there.
Yeah, but you're asking about the plane next to it, eh?
Yeah, this one here. It's not a well-known plane.
Yeah, I don't know. You have to tell me.
It's called the Argus, and what's its job, do you think?
The Argus, wasn't it like a radar type plane?
Yeah, maritime patrol.
Maritime patrol. Yeah, I thought
So
so.
there's your radar there. We could see ships quite far away. I flew that for 5 years. Like, do you ever see any Russian submarines in Lake Ontario?
No.
Well, you got me to thank.
That's good.
I was on patrol for 5 years. Okay?
Oh, they tried? Have you seen one? They're trying? No.
No, that was just a joke.
I can go on and on. Now, when the Arrow went down, we lost our ability to do world-leading fighters, whatever. But we're still the best at some things, in particular what we call bush planes. This is called the Twin Otter.
I
It's
can
got
remember.
Canadian in it, this here. This is the Beaver, famous bush plane. There's an Otter that's bigger than this, and this is the Twin Otter because it has 2 engines. Those are Canadian designed and built engines, Canadian designed and built plane. To show you how good that is, it's used around the world. Now the Americans are best at everything, right?
Yeah.
Well,
They said.
they are pretty damn good at most stuff. However, they have a scientific station at the South Pole. And for 3 months in the wintertime, you don't go in, you don't go out. It's too cold, too dark, too dangerous. Well, there was a scientist there got sick. And the guy who runs the place said, you know what, the doctor, if she doesn't get out of here, I can't help her. So who do you call? Well, an airline in northern Alberta. They flew one of these all the way down through Alberta, United States, Mexico, Central America, South America, took the wheels off, put skis on, and went into the South Pole in the dead of winter
To get.
and got her out. So, and here's a bunch of planes. Down here, I'm not sure why this one's here. That's the F-15 Eagle that the Americans have. And so is this one. That's your F-18. F-18, F-18. That's a radar antenna. Your 101 Voodoo, and the Voodoo. And these guys here, do you recognize these ones?
That's okay. An F-83 is what it's called.
F-35.
F-35.
That's what we're buying from the Americans. Okay?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
got stealth and all that. And that's your Generation 5.
Nice one. Yeah.
Okay? And this here's Generation 5. The Americans are the only guys who fly this one. And you can see them here at the London Air Show. You want to come down to the London Air Show. It's been voted the best in North America many, many times.
Cool.
Middle of September.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, middle of September they show this.
London Air Show. It's not cheap, but it's the best. And what plane is this, do you think?
No idea.
F-22 Raptor.
F-22 Raptor.
You've heard of it, no doubt.
Yep.
I was just wondering, what's the purpose of those like
The thing sticking out
things
the front?
that stick at the front?
It's called a pitot tube, And the job of a pitot tube is to measure the airspeed, okay? Now, on the T-33, it's just a little thing under the nose, okay? On other planes, it's on the wing. Why does it stick way out in front on these planes?
Yeah.
Well, the reason is these planes are supersonic. Most of the time they're not supersonic, but they can go supersonic. And when you are supersonic, you get shock waves. And so all the air pressure behind the shock wave won't be normal. So if you have your pitot tube back there, as soon as you go supersonic, your airspeed indicator will
Yeah.
just give you garbage.
True.
So you put it way out in front so there's no shock wave in front of it.
That's why. I was like, it's weird. I never see a plane. Most of the planes doesn't have
Yeah.
that one.
Now in these models they don't show them, but on
They
the tuner
usually
jet
have-
here, it's on the wing and it sticks out about this far. But the tuner never goes near supersonic, so not a problem. But you got a problem here, okay? I'm disappointed you didn't climb in the cockpit. Girls are like that,
He has a pilot sister. So
Yeah.
no? Okay, we'll get her up here.
You should bring your sister
Because I
here.
much prefer talking to pilots than just ordinary people like you. Okay, that's your Vampire there with the twin tails. That's what our Generation 1 fighter that we had for a few years in the late 40s and early 50s before we got the Saberjet. This is the engine out of Canadian T-33s. It's a Rolls-Royce that we built here in Canada. And it's bigger and better than what's in the American ones. So almost any T-33 you see flying today will be a Canadian one, even if it's painted American. And very, very inefficient, but it's bulletproof, I'll tell you. Nothing can stop this, as far as I'm concerned. But it gobbles the gas like crazy. Okay, this is a drafting board. It's all done by hand in the old days. This comes from Avro. Whether it actually worked on the Arrow or not, we don't know. And these are reproductions of the Arrow.
Okay.
Just imagine that's all done by hand.
Wow, yeah.
So measured by hand.
Yeah, and drawn by hand. This is the compressor off the Tudor. You have a compressor at the front on that big engine back there, just a big disc that spins around. This is much more efficient, but much touchier and more complicated. And remember, that engine there came from the very start of the jet age, whereas this is a much later one. And all the modern jet engines have that kind of compressor. This here is called a Hawker Hunter. Might fly someday
Oh, yeah.
with sufficient money put into it. And there's the engine from it. And it's basically the British equivalent of the F-86 Saberjet.
Okay.
A little later, I think it's a little faster. Which one is better? Well, people will argue about that, of course. Forever. You come this over here. This is a Tudor jet here. So I flew this as a student and then as an instructor. We have hopes to fly it again someday, but I'm not too confident. Might be too far gone and it's hard to get parts. And that's what the snowbirds use. Like we retired it as a trainer, I think in 1990, I can't remember exactly. You know, and this is something that somebody donated to us. Snowbirds put on a great show.
Yeah,
Not
that's
as fast
neat.
and noisy as the American ones, but there's more of them, and they keep the show in nice and tight. So which is better? Well, they're different. Okay, these are the various ejection seats. These are the Voodoo, which is the big plane outside, and this is out of the Tudor jet.
So when you get ejected, you just flew, or it's with those chairs?
You go, the whole thing goes out, and there's not one on here. If this was complete, excuse me, there's a strap that goes from here, underneath that, up the back to a roller. So when you eject, and you see this guy's ejected, he's pulled the handles up, out it goes. The seat buckle goes apart. That strap I mentioned goes tight and it throws you out. And your ripcord is attached to the seat.
Oh yeah.
So
I
it
see
opens
that.
automatically. You could be unconscious. And then down you come. Okay. Now this here, this is not a simulator. This is what they call a mock-up, which this is for the Dash 8. So if you fly from Toronto to here, and be in a plane similar to this, Canadian plane called the Dash 8, the Helen Dash 8. They do this with lots of things. After they've designed it on paper, and before they build the first one, they build one out of wood and see where did they screw up. Look at all those wires. How do you route them? How long is each wire? Well, instead of trying to design that, you just build the mock-up and measure it. Can the pilot see all the instruments? Can the pilot reach all the controls? You figure out what you go, then you go back and correct the paper, and then you start to build. And if you want to sit in there and make some airplane noises, you're most welcome to.
Yeah, I'll take a look at the cockpit.
Okay. Now, once again, this was gifted to us. We'd love to get a volunteer that's interested in it. We put the time in, and of course, you'd have to talk to the board about getting some money. So basically, it's in just the same condition we got it when we still need it.
Also, this whole piece was donated.
Yeah. And you see, once they've used it to figure out, okay, let's refine the design, then it just goes off into the corner. But then if it gets some new equipment, they would bring it out and we've got all these boxes around how do we do that, right? Okay, now that big voodoo out there, it was located down in Nova Scotia in the museum there. Wanted to get rid of it because it had nothing to do with them. Free to good home, so we went down there, took it apart, brought it back. And there was 2 missiles were on it. These are heat-seeking missiles, where you have to move behind to shoot. And of course, this one looked similar to that, but we fixed this one up. Those are heat-seeking missiles. Did not have a radar-guided missile, because we're talking 1950s technology. When radar missiles came in, they only had a receiver. So when you shot at the guy, you'd have to keep shining your radar on him, because the missile would use the echoes from your radar. If the guy got out of that, then the missile would just go off into space, okay? The modern radar ones have their own transmitters, so they're fire and forget, they call them. Now, the Voodoo has to go behind to shoot these, 'cause that's where the heat is. But it does have a missile that you can shoot from the front, maybe, I don't know how many miles away. If I did know, I probably couldn't tell you. I don't know. And you shoot it, and it would just go straight. And after a predetermined length of time, it will explode. Now, from 3-4 miles away, or 8 miles, I don't know how far, are you going to hit the guy? I mean, you might be out by half a degree, right? The guy can see you if it's daytime. Are you going to hit him? No, hardly ever. In fact, you might miss him by quite a bit. Suppose you did miss him by quite a bit. I don't know, 500-600 yards, let's say. Once again, I don't know. Are you going to kill him if you miss by 500-600 yards?
No.
Well, once again, I don't know exactly. And if I did, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you. But actually, you will kill him.
You will?
And how can you kill him from that far away? Any ideas? What sort of explosive do you use? You got any ideas?
No.
How about a really, 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 really big explosion?
It could.
No. How about really, 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 really bigly, ginormous, huge explosion? That would do it, right?
Yeah.
Well, how do you get that kind of explosion? What sort of warhead do you use?
Nuclear?
The government of Canada neither confirms nor denies the presence of nuclear
nuclear
weapons on Canadian soil.
All right. Well, yeah, you beat me there.
So, every Voodoo base had an American unit on it that was responsible for the maintenance and security of the nuclear warheads. And whenever there was an exercise, they would come up with their guns, turn them over, they would load them up, and the pilots would fly the mission on the exercise. Now I'm convinced, I talked to voodoo pilots, they don't know for sure, but I'm convinced they never had the real warhead. Because they can get the same training value from a dummy warhead. And why take the chance of an accident? I don't know. Okay, but the Russians never came, did they? So it worked. It's after quitting time, so this stuff's turned off. But this is a setup at home that if you wanted to do flight simulator flying, all you need is an ordinary desktop computer. It doesn't need to be new. You have to buy a joystick and throttle. I'm talking $100, $150, I don't know how much. And then you have to buy the program, which there's some free ones out there. You can get them from Steam, whatever. So you could get a setup like this, which I could demonstrate except it's off, for less than $200. But if you want the real thing, these ones here, there's two other ones still going, but the guy who knows how to operate them is gone. This is a $7,000 computer. The graphics of the airplane itself are amazing compared to that. And the terrain graphics on that, I mean, at Toronto, you can see out of the airport, you can see the CN Tower, but everything's kind of pixelated. And the trees and roads and that, it's generated by the hard drive, eh? Hard drive's only so big. The terrain in this is not literally true, but it makes it easy to explain. The terrain on this comes from Google Earth.
Oh, that's why it's
Doesn't actually, but that's the same idea. So you could take off from here and fly over your house in Richmond Hill and see it and fly right down the street. That's how good it is, eh? And we actually charge money if you want to spend some time with that. And you have to have an appointment because we need somebody around that's qualified to run it. Here's the second last thing in our small museum. This is a MiG-29 cockpit. It's a Soviet design. It's generation 3. No, generation 4, excuse me. It's basically the equivalent of
Excuse me.
of our F-18 Hornets, okay? More or less. Better in some ways, I guess, not as good in other ways. Anyway, this was donated to us. It was a mess. So we cleaned it all up, made a new base. And now what am I going to paint it? Because we never used them. The Americans never used them. The British never used them. We could paint them up Soviet or Russian. Russian Air Force has them. Ukrainian Air Force has them. We could do the Polish Air Force. They still have a few. They're pretty obsolete now. Anyway, what are we going to paint them? Well, in 1992, when Ukraine was newly independent, they sent over 2 MiG-29s to show the flag as Ukrainian Air Force, not Soviet Air Force. And they painted them up special, not like their regular planes are not painted like this, eh? They were painted up special for this tour they did. And they hired a local Canadian of Ukrainian descent. And you probably know that there's more Ukrainians in Canada than anywhere else other than Ukraine and Russia.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, more than Norway or United States or anywhere.
Yeah, a lot in Saskatchewan, yeah.
Do you ever? Yes, and in Manitoba and Alberta. We needed tough people to populate that place 100-some years ago. It's cold out there. And what's tougher than a East European peasant from the late 1800s? So we painted it up like those, and when we had the grand reveal, we invited the Ukrainian community here. And that was quite an emotional time, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Now I can go on and on and on, but it's quitting time. And, should have come earlier.
I know.
I know. Thanks very much, even though we were in kind of a time crunch.
Yeah. Now, but I have saved the highlight of the whole museum for the last, so you'll be all enthusiastic about it. And that is the gift shop and donation box.
Yeah.
So every museum you have to go through the gift shop. We've got a little gift store that helps us keep the doors open and pay the rent.
Can we pay through card?
Yeah, we take plastic.
Yeah.
In fact, right now, we can't take cash because there's a problem with the machine.
Okay.
Yeah, for donation or purchase
For
or both.
donation.
Yeah, whatever you want to do, okay?
Okay, thank you.
And I'll be right here.
All right, that was cool. Anyone watching this, be sure to check out this museum in London, Ontario.
Oh, they have nice keychains.
Amazing collection, and be sure to support this place.